Welcome to History's Mysterious Minds, where we explore the strange stories that lie between belief and betrayal, devotion and delusion. Tonight, we go to the 1990s, to a quiet mansion in Rancho Santa Fe, California, where 39 people, dressed in identical black clothing and Nike shoes, lay lifeless in bunk beds, each with a purple shroud over their face, each having left behind a video explaining why they were ready to leave Earth. This wasn't a crime scene, at least not in the traditional sense. It was a farewell, a ritual, a graduation, they said. This is the unsettling story of Heaven's Gate, a cult that believes salvation waited among the stars. If only they could leave their human bodies behind. Marshall Applewhite was once a music teacher, known for his charisma and piercing stare. But after a mental health crisis in the 1970s, he became convinced he had a divine purpose. He met Bonnie Nettles, a nurse with spiritual leanings, and together they believed they were the two, messengers from another world. They claimed Earth was about to be recycled, and only those who followed them could ascend to a higher, non-physical plane of existence. By 1975, the two began gathering followers under the name Bo and Peep. They promised enlightenment and escape from Earth's corruption. Their message combined apocalyptic Christian imagery with sci-fi themes. Followers sold their belongings and cut ties with family. They called themselves the Crew. Their destination? The next level? Their vehicle? A spaceship, hidden behind a comet or cloaked from human eyes. In the mid-1970s, dozens of followers vanished from public view. Across the US, families reported loved ones missing. But these weren't kidnappings. They were voluntary disappearances. The group retreated into secrecy, travelling from state to state in campers, avoiding detection. They lived communally, anonymously. Disciples waited patiently for the time when they would be called to leave their bodies behind. By the 1990s, the group had changed names multiple times. Human Individual Metamorphosis, Total Overcomers Anonymous, but finally settled on Heaven's Gate. Applewhite, now going by Do, taught that their human bodies were mere containers, like vehicles. Earth was seen as a corrupted garden, and the only way to reach salvation was to exit before the coming purge. They believed alien beings would rescue their souls if they were ready. In 1985, Bonnie Nettles, Applewhite's spiritual partner, died of cancer. Her death shook the group. They had believed she would ascend alive. Applewhite reinterpreted her passing. She had simply shed her vehicle and moved on. Her absence only deepened his conviction. Without her balancing presence, his teachings grew more rigid, more focused on control, and more obsessed with leaving Earth behind. In 1996, the group settled in a rented mansion in Rancho Santa Fe. To outsiders, they were quiet and polite. Online, they ran a web design company called Higher Source. Inside, life was tightly regimented. Members gave up names, families, anything that tied them to the world. Everything was shared, everything was structured. They believed they were preparing for a final exam, the ultimate test of faith. That year, astronomers spotted the Hale Bopp Comet, a brilliant object streaking across the sky. But Heaven's Gate saw more than a comet. They believed a spacecraft was travelling behind it, cloaked from human instruments. For them, it was the sign they'd been waiting for. The time had come to ascend, to shed their vehicles and join Bonnie in the next level. The comet was their signal, their rapture. In March 1997, members filmed farewell videos. They looked calm, hopeful, smiling. They spoke of joy, of certainty. Then, over 3 days, the group consumed phenobarbital mixed with applesauce and vodka. They placed plastic bags over their heads to ensure death. One by one, they lay down in bunk beds, covered themselves in purple shrouds. Each wore black clothing and Nike Decades, their uniform for ascension. On March 26, 1997, a former member received a package from the group. Inside was a VHS tape and a letter. Alarmed, he called authorities. When police entered the mansion, they found 39 bodies arranged neatly in beds. No signs of struggle, no signs of violence, just eerie calm. The nation watched in disbelief as photos of the scene surfaced. Purple shrouds, matching shoes, peaceful expressions, and a chilling sense of ritual. The farewell videos shocked the public. In them, members spoke clearly, rationally, and with enthusiasm. They believed this was a joyous event, not a suicide, but a graduation. Applewhite's final message was filled with conviction. He believed he'd fulfilled his mission, that he was about to leave Earth for good. The tapes showed no fear, just certainty. For them, death wasn't an end. It was a departure. How could intelligent, articulate people believe such a thing? Experts point to isolation, groupthink, and the psychological power of charismatic leadership. Over years, members were slowly separated from the world, their doubts eroded, their language rewritten. Heaven's Gate wasn't built overnight. It was a slow, careful shaping of belief, until nothing outside the group made sense anymore. Heaven's Gate was one of the first cults to embrace the internet. They launched a website, posted teachings online, sold services under higher source. They used email, digital outreach, even video production. They believed the internet was a tool given by level above human beings. In many ways, they were a futuristic cult, tech-savvy, media-aware, and eerily ahead of their time. To prepare for ascension, members gave up all attachments, identity, even their names. Some underwent voluntary castration, believing desires were a barrier to enlightenment. All wore similar clothing, ate the same food, followed strict schedules. Uniformity was seen as purity. Individuality was weakness. It was a world where control was mistaken for clarity and pain mistaken for purpose. The media called it a mass suicide, a UFO cult, a tragedy. But the real story is more complex. Heaven's Gate wasn't just about aliens. It was about meaning, escape, control. In a world of chaos, the group offered answers, however strange. And for some, that clarity was more valuable than life itself. The event became mythologized, referenced in pop culture. But at its core, it was a human story, about belief pushed too far. Not all members died. A few had left earlier, struggling with doubt. Others were instructed to stay behind to tell the group's story. Some still believe in the teachings today. The website remains online, maintained by former followers. For them, the mission isn't over. The belief still lives, quietly. Heaven's Gate became a symbol of blind faith, but also of longing, a search for somewhere better, even if it meant leaving everything behind. The story of Heaven's Gate isn't just a product of the 1990s. In times of uncertainty, people look for meaning in strange places. Cults thrive on fear, isolation, and hope. And with new technology, new movements can grow faster than ever. Heaven's Gate may seem like a relic, but its ingredients, charisma, apocalypse, community, control, are timeless. As long as people search for answers, stories like this will find a way to return. Heaven's Gate is more than a headline from the past. It's a mirror reflecting our hunger for purpose and the dangers of surrendering our will to someone else's vision. It's about belief, yes, but also about isolation and loss. 39 people didn't just die. They chose to leave together because they thought something greater was waiting. And maybe that's the most haunting part of all. If you found this story thought-provoking, please like, subscribe, and share history's mysterious minds. Have a mystery we should explore? Reach out. We're always listening.